Hi guys, Jimmy Fluke here for Apex Racing Academy. This is our Barcelona track guide for week 6 of the Sports Car Challenge by Falcon Tire. As well as these track guides, we're also giving away the Mercedes-AMG GT4 data pack for free this season. So that includes your setups, both qualifying and race setups, the reference lap files, so your B lap and O lap files that you can plug into the sim and compare against my lap time. We've also got the replay files that you can take a look at. And also as part of your subscription, you're able to access the group coaching sessions that I'll host on a Tuesday evening. You can get that for free by heading over to apexracingac.com. The link is in the description below. In terms of the track this week, Barcelona is a really difficult and technical circuit, and with the historic layout, it does lend itself slightly better to the Merc so that we don't have to worry too much about the technical final sector. The lawn sweeping corners at the end of the lap do suit it quite nicely, but it lacks a little bit of acceleration and traction in places, so there are slightly better options, but it's still a pretty good pick overall and should be competitive this week. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Another reminder, guys, that you can get this season's Mercedes-AMG GT4 data pack for free at apexracingac.com or by checking the link in the description below. So, into the lap here at Barcelona. We've got the long pit straight to negotiate, so just keeping the car over to the left-hand side, and then as the track sort of opens up, where we can put our left side wheels into the green paint, we'll do so, and we'll just rev the car out completely in 5th gear. Spot the sort of light that we have in the catch fencing on the left-hand side. That's a good reference for getting onto the brakes, or where the tyre marks are prominent here just beside the red and white curbing within the green paint here. So get the car straightened, hard onto the brakes, peak pressure there of about 80%, down into 3rd gear, turning in fairly early, and trying to sort of wrap the outside of the anti-cut curb here towards the inside of the circuit here. We used to be able to straddle this curb to really open up turn 2, but if we do that now, we get a slowdown penalty. So smoothly does it in terms of our throttle pickup, just letting the car settle and rotate as much as we can before committing to full throttle, and then aggressively over the inside curve through turn 2 with a small lift as we go through, and then let the car land before committing to full throttle and tracking out almost the entire way across the circuit. We don't need to really open up turn 3 all that much, just a little bit, just so we can actually get a little bit of rotation early into the corner. For turn 3, I just lift and do so just before the gravel ends on the right hand side here, and then as soon as I feel like the nose is going to tuck in, then I'll slowly introduce the throttle, and where the curb is sort of at its most prominent, or where the lip of the curb seems most prominent, so the sort of area here, I want to start really feeding the throttle in. I actually could have been slightly more aggressive on this lap. I was a little hesitant to full throttle and then ended up a little bit on the shallow side coming off the corner. But it's not that much quicker to run it all the way out. With the GT4s being a little bit of a slower class, we can sort of take a shallower line and shorten the distance of the corner and not lose out so much. If you're in a GT3 or a prototype, for example, you'd want to run a lot closer to the edge of the circuit here to maximize the downforce of the car. In this case, though, a slightly shallower exit isn't going to hurt us and will protect the tires in a longer run. So over to the left-hand side, we go for turn 4. So again, we're sort of straddling the edge of the curb here, left side wheels into the green, and we'll just roll it through a little bit further before we hit the brake point. So there's a black mark that I like to use that's baked into the white line here, just where rubber's been laid down. That's always going to be there, and so I like to use that as a guide, or you could use the tire mark that I'm outlining here. So straight onto the brakes, turning the entire way, so our peak pressure isn't super high. Down into third gear. In terms of gearing, you could grab second, but this is very much a traction limited corner. And so third gear is the gear of choice, just making sure that you're clean with your trail brake here. So smoothly does it onto the throttle, let the car settle before committing to full throttle there. So it's a snap to like 70-75% throttle before then committing to the exit of the corner. We don't need to go super wide here. We need to bring the car back over to the right-hand side to set up turn 5. A tricky downhill braking zone to get right, where the track is a little bit lighter here in the middle. We're going to brake about a car length or so before it. It's not the easiest thing to spot, but once you see it once or twice, you'll be able to pick that up quite easily. So strong-ish on the peak pressure, with it being then downhill braking later on. We want to do most of the braking when the track is a little bit more level, before then focusing on trail braking to get the car tucked into the corner. In general, I'll try and avoid the inside curb if I can help it. And I'll just roll it through in second gear, and then once I feel like the car's settled on that inside white line, I'll pick up the throttle, let the car rotate, and then commit to our exit. Sort of when I'm north of 45 degrees of steering angle, that's usually a good metric for me that I can accelerate hard off the corner. On exit, as long as we're touching the red and white curb, we are good to go. So down the hill towards turn 7, turn 6 isn't really much of a corner. We're going to brake just before the opening of the curb here on the right hand side. And this corner is one where you feel like you need to back it up just a little bit more than you want to. It's just so that we have a really clean and precise exit so that we can take turn 8 exactly how we want to. So again, not super hard on the peak pressure here. We're focusing on just placing the car exactly where we want to. So half the car over the top of the green paint, and the other half staying within the track limits, either on the red and white curb or on the white line itself. Aggressive initial throttle pickup before then just being patient with it as the car rotates and then drops off of the curb, and then we commit to full throttle, and then we can attack through turn 8 in the way that we wish. So for the best run through here, we'll straddle the curb and then trying to get our right side wheels to pop up over the sort of different curb profile here for the anti-cuts. So we want to pop over this sort of area here, and that ensures the smoothest landing, like so. Up into fourth gear, over to the left-hand side for the very difficult turn 9. Braking and turning in where the curbing ends here on the left-hand side. We'll just roll it through. Gently does it on the brake. We're not taking too much speed off here. The important thing is that we angle the car in such a way that we miss the anti-cut curb, but take as much then of the Astro beyond that, so that the car can rotate most effectively then through the rest of the corner. So it'll look a little something like this. Really aggressive with the throttle pickup, trusting that the car can handle it. You can see there the car wants to rotate ever so slightly. The reason for this, for the slightly later apex as well, is that the track limit here on exit is a challenge. Ideally, we want to use everything here, but where the green and white curbing begins, which is here, that influences our track limit. So when it's just the red and white curbing, more than half the car must stay within the red and white curbing. Once the green and white curbing appears, then we can use that as our track limit. But naturally, we want to track out earlier, so that's why we need to angle the car in such a way that we get as much rotation as possible and have a slightly shallower exit than we would otherwise wish for. So therefore, on exit there, we're not feeling like we're using everything on the way out, but it's the best that we can do. Heading down towards turn 10, using the gravel here on the right-hand side as our guide and reference, we're going to brake just before that, braking hard in a straight line, down into third and then second gear, and sort of creeping the car in towards the inside white line. We're going to try and hold this sort of shallow line to the best of our ability here, so bleeding off the brake appropriately. And then once the car feels settled and stable, then we can pick up the throttle as aggressive as we can. If we need to open up the steering early, then feel free to do so. It's important just to carry as much momentum off the corner as possible, rather than being patient and waiting forever to accelerate out. So we'll bring the car hard over to the left-hand side to set up what is then turn 11, turning in and then braking as the curb straightens out here on entry. And we'll float the car in, down into third and then second gear. And this is just a sort of long sweeping trail brake corner. The important thing here is not to be too aggressive with our brake pressure, and let the car go as deep into the corners as we can before picking up the throttle, because we're going to have to wait quite some time before we can commit to full throttle anyway. So aggressive initial input to get the car to rotate, and then patience and modulation to make sure that we don't overload the left rear tire. And then again, once we get almost straightened out, we can commit to full throttle, grab third gear, and then use all of the circuit available to us on exit. Penultimate corner, this is really difficult to get right. There's nothing visual here that works nicely as a reference. We're certainly turning in and coming off of the curb before the red and white curbing part ends, before it tapers away. Flat initially on the way in, we'll grab fourth and then lift. And our target is to get as close as we can to the final cone here without touching it. In terms of a different visual metric, I try and track the left front through the white line, and that seems to work okay for me. From here, we'll slowly feed the throttle back in and then commit to our exit. So on exit, as long as we're touching the red and white curbing, we're good to go, which is slightly difficult to feel and difficult to see from within this particular car, but getting pretty close to the gravel should be absolutely fine. And then into the final corner, we can go straight over the top of the anti-cut curb here. We almost like skate over it, but the car seems to be able to take it okay, even though it does bottom out slightly here. If you're not comfortable with that, then do feel free to stay off it. Once onto the curb, we can gently apply the brake and then tip the car in from the most optimal angle. Nice early turn in, feed the car onto that inside white line before then picking up the throttle, certainly well before the pit wall on the inside here. And then from here, commit to full throttle, and hopefully the car will pull itself around and we can use absolutely everything then on the way out. And from here, it's a really short run to the line, and that's a lap of Barcelona in the Mercedes-AMG GT4. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to go over to apexracingac.com for your free Mercedes-AMG GT4 data pack for the remainder of the season. For further questions and info, join our Discord server, which you can access with your subscription, and we host a group coaching session on a Tuesday evening as well. So make sure to check the details of that in the car channel once you have signed up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.